In the heart of Limerick, Ireland, a child was born into a world steeped in conflict and rebellion. Rose Lynch's early years were coloured by the tumult of the Troubles, a time when the streets buzzed with whispers of nationalism and dissent. Her father, Joe "Tiny" Lynch, was a prominent figure in the dissident Republican movement, the Continuity Irish Republican Army. From a young age, Rose was indoctrinated with tales of glory and sacrifice for the cause of Irish Republicanism. Her home was a sanctuary for those who sought to further the agenda of armed struggle against British rule in Ireland. Tiny Lynch was a fierce advocate for Republican ideals, raising his children to revere the ideology of militant nationalism. He instilled in Rose a sense of duty, pride, and the belief that the fight for Irish independence was noble and necessary. As a child, she was encouraged to join Republican youth organizations and participate in community activities that promoted their cause. Rose's childhood was not filled with innocence. Instead, it was punctuated by meetings, marches, and a pervasive sense of purpose that would shape her future. By the age of 5, she was already selling Republican newspapers in the streets, proudly proclaiming her allegiance to the cause. As she grew older, her involvement deepened. She joined the women's group Cumann na Ban, learning the skills she would later employ in her violent endeavors. Her childhood friendships were forged in the fires of rebellion, and her teenage years were spent in the shadow of her father's expectations. The atmosphere was electric with the promise of struggle, and Rose absorbed every lesson her upbringing provided. As she entered adulthood, Rose Lynch became a staunch member of the IRA, fully embracing the militant lifestyle. The world outside her door was rife with violence, and she was determined to be a part of it. The thrill of clandestine operations, the adrenaline of planning missions, and the rush of adrenaline that accompanied the reality of violence became her new normal. With a pistol in her possession and a fierce determination in her heart, she felt invincible. By the time she was in her 30s, Rose had moved to Dublin, where the dissident Republican movement was gaining momentum. It was during this time that she began to forge a reputation as a formidable figure within the IRA. Her fervor and dedication to the cause set her apart, and she quickly climbed the ranks of the organization. But with her rise to prominence came an expectation for greater acts of violence and allegiance to the group's ideology. In November 2011, Rose's life would take a dark turn. Under the belief that she was acting in service of the IRA's mission, she received information that would forever alter the course of her life. Misguided intelligence led her to believe that David Darcy, a local delivery driver and father of 2, was involved in the murder of an IRA chief, Liam Kenny. In reality, Darcy was an innocent man, going about his daily life, unaware that he had become a target. On that fateful day, Rose approached Darcy's van with a sense of purpose and vengeance. Without hesitation, she fired multiple shots into the vehicle, hitting him 3 times in the head and upper body. In that moment, Rose Lynch became known as Ireland's first female assassin. As she stood over the lifeless body of David Darcy, the thrill of the act washed over her. It was a calculated decision, a supposed act of retribution for a crime that had never been committed by her victim. The murder sent shockwaves through the community. The IRA, believing they had achieved a significant blow against a perceived enemy, celebrated her actions. But the truth soon unraveled. Investigators quickly established that Darcy had no ties to criminal activity. He was a hard-working man, beloved by his family and community, and the brutal reality of his murder became painfully clear. Rose Lynch was arrested within weeks of the assassination. In a chilling display of defiance, she maintained her pride in her actions. During her trial, she declared herself a true volunteer, refusing to acknowledge any wrongdoing. The courtroom heard her twisted justifications as she clung to the belief that she had served her organization faithfully. Her lack of remorse left a deep scar on Darcy's family, who were left to mourn an innocent life cut short by a senseless act of violence. In April 2014, the Special Criminal Court found Lynch guilty of murder, The judge described the act as a premeditated, calculated, and cold-blooded murder. Rose was sentenced to life in prison, but her story was far from over. While incarcerated, she continued to espouse her beliefs, often boasting about her actions and the supposed righteousness of her cause. Her reputation as a hardliner within the prison walls grew, as did her delusions of grandeur. Limerick prison became Rose Lynch's new reality. Initially, she was placed in solitary confinement due to the high-profile nature of her crime, but over time, she was integrated into the prison population. Here, she quickly garnered attention, not only for her infamy, but also for her attitude. As a self-proclaimed iconic Republican, Lynch attempted to maintain her persona, often throwing her weight around among fellow inmates. However, her bravado did not go unnoticed. In a turn of events, Rose found herself the target of another inmate's rage. During an altercation in the prison's E2 wing, she was attacked, resulting in a beating that left her bruised and humbled. The incident marked a significant shift in her demeanor. Once brash and defiant, she now spent more time in her cell, reflecting on her choices and the life that had led her to this point. The prison atmosphere was harsher than she had anticipated. Inmates and guards alike were wary of her, and as the novelty of her reputation wore off, she struggled to maintain her tough exterior. Behind the bars, Rose faced the reality of her actions and the devastation they caused. The name of David Darcy haunted her, a constant reminder of the innocent life she had extinguished. As the prison population swelled, Lynch was moved to share a cell with Lisa Smith, an ISIS member and former soldier. Their unlikely partnership drew attention, as both women had become symbolic figures in Ireland's troubled history of violence. Despite their differences, they found common ground in their defiance of the systems that had imprisoned them. Sharing a cell, they discussed their pasts, their beliefs, and their lives before incarceration. Smith had been convicted for her allegiance to a foreign terror organization, while Lynch's crime was rooted in the local violence of her homeland. The two women, once enemies in ideology, formed a bond, both described as model prisoners. The prison authorities took note of their camaraderie, and it was seen as a surprising development in the otherwise hostile environment of Limerick prison. Lynch and Smith's shared experiences of extremism became a focal point for conversations about rehabilitation and redemption within the prison system. As they navigated the complexities of their situations, they began to challenge each other's beliefs and perceptions of their past actions. Years passed, and Rose Lynch found herself reflecting on her life, both before and after the murder of David Darcy. While she continued to insist that her actions were justified, the isolation of prison life began to chip away at her convictions. The prison walls echoed with the cries of families devastated by violence, and the silence of her cell became a canvas for her guilt and anger. Though she remained unrepentant publicly, internally, a transformation was underway. Lynch started to realize the futility of her past actions and the cycle of violence that had consumed her life and those around her. She grappled with the legacy she would leave behind: a daughter, a community, and a country burdened by the memories of bloodshed. As she navigated this internal conflict, the echoes of David Darcy's family resonated in her mind. They had been stripped of a father, a husband, and a friend due to her choices. Would she ever have the chance to seek forgiveness, or would she be forever imprisoned by her own actions? The story of Rose Lynch is not just a narrative of one woman's descent into violence, but also a reflection of a society grappling with its own demons. As she sits in her cell, she symbolizes the struggles of a generation caught in a cycle of revenge and hatred. Her story serves as a reminder of the fragility of life and the heavy toll of violence on both victims and perpetrators. Outside the prison walls, the legacy of the Troubles continues to haunt Ireland. Communities are still healing, families are still mourning, and the ghosts of the past linger in the shadows. Lynch's actions have contributed to a complex narrative of loss and tragedy, one that resonates through the lives of countless individuals. As Lynch reflects on her past, she is faced with an uncertain future. Her life sentence means that she will spend the foreseeable future behind bars, but the thoughts of what could have been linger in her mind. Would she have chosen a different path if given the opportunity? Would she have sought peace instead of vengeance? The answers remain elusive, lost in the labyrinth of her choices. The story of Rose Lynch serves as a cautionary tale, a narrative woven into the fabric of Irish history. It raises questions about identity, loyalty, and the cost of violence. As she navigates her life in prison, Rose is forced to confront the legacy she has created, one of bloodshed, loss, and a quest for meaning in a world overshadowed by conflict. In the end, Lynch's journey is not just about her own life. It is a reflection of a society that continues to grapple with its history, seeking a path towards reconciliation and understanding. The legacy of her actions will reverberate through generations, a stark reminder of the price of hatred and the importance of choosing peace over violence. And so, the story of Ireland's first female assassin unfolds, an intricate tapestry of upbringing, violence, remorse, and the longing for redemption, leaving behind a haunting echo that will linger long after the final chapter is written. That's it for today's video. Let us know in the comments section what you think of the Rose Lynch story, and I will see you on the next video. Stay safe.